Well, Canon just released a new camera, the EOS C50, in their cinema lineup, which is exciting. It's supposed to be the Sony FX3 killer. Let's talk about why that just is not true. Hey, what's up? My name is Tony, and I am a filmmaker and a photographer in the St. Louis area, and these cameras are just made for me. Just to let you know, I do a bunch of photo and video, both combos in my company. I've got a company called Aspen Creative Co, and we focus kind of on adventure brands. I also have a wedding company that I'm kind of phasing myself out of, so I do a lot of photo video for there too. And these cameras, the C50s, are kind of made for that market, for smaller film crews that need to do both photo and video. And just to say it off the bat, I think that Canon kind of knocked it out of the park with this one. So what I want to do in this video is talk to you about some of the things that I really love about the C50, talk about kind of how does that fall into place with the R5 C, and then why would they kill the FX3? We'll talk about that in a minute though. So the C50. Some of the things that I really love about this camera, if you want to know the specs, go check it out somewhere else. But I want to just talk to you about some of the features that are jumping off the page right now when I'm looking into this camera. Just to let you know, I've got like 5 R5 Cs. I use the photo, video like model with one camera nonstop. And I love the idea of the concept of the C50. Now the R5 C is a little bit more photo centric, you could say. The thing that's really unique about the R5 C is it has both the photo and the video menu. And now the C50 is the only camera in the cinema lineup, the actual cinema lineup, that has a this dedicated photo and dedicated video menu system. If you have never used the cinema operating system, you're missing out when it comes to video. I jump even to the R5 Mark II. I've got one of those that I shoot all of my photos with when it comes to like weddings. As soon as I flip over video, I feel those limitations. Even though they add things like waveform and whatever, the cinema operating system is just so much more ideal for capturing video. And so all of their cinema cameras, the C50, C80, the C400, all of them have this cinema operating system. What's really unique about the C50 is it now has the photo system on it, which none of the other cinema line does except for the R5 C, but it doesn't have the viewfinder. So this is definitely a video focused camera that also takes photos. Versus one could say the R5 C is a photo-focused camera with a full video operating system in it. Now, there's a lot that goes into this. The big thing is the sensor. This is the R5 C. It's based off of the R5, the OG R5 that overheated. They slapped on this big fan on the back, put in the cinema operating system, and then made it a little bit more of a cinema camera with this little C on the front. I feel like they went the opposite way. They took a C80 and they dumbed it down as much as they could into a camera this size, and then decided to add in photo back into it, which for somebody like me is great. The question I'm asking myself is, can I take photos on a C50? Like an actual photo shoot? Am I gonna do a portrait shoot with the C50? Most likely not, but it's really nice that you have the ability with a cinema camera to be able to take good photos. Sure, you can take a snapshot with the C80, you can take photos, but this gives you the full photo operating system. The difference between the R5 C and the C50 is the way that the sensor is made. This is an R5 sensor. I think the new sensor is actually a fully cinema developed sensor. And so it's gonna lean a little bit more cinema style, which is interesting. You get different crops for Super 35, things like that. The way that it handles light or high speed, photos, I'll be interested to see how does that look. A lot of people will say that the R5 C still looks a little bit more like a mirrorless versus a cinema camera. I think it's a really nice blend in between, and I get really great images both photo and video out of the R5 C. We're shooting on that right now. And so I'm really curious to see the photo side of the C50. But that's just one part of it. The form factor, it doesn't have a viewfinder, but it adds on some other things. It adds on a top handle that has built-in XLR inputs. That's one thing that all of the mirrorless style cameras just really lack. In fact, right now, I've got a field recorder with the H1 XLR that's recording a 32-bit float into a microphone that's right above my head, and then I gotta sync it in post. You can get an adapter with some of these new cameras, the Tascam XLR, and I've used that before and it works, but it's just more gear. What I like about the C50 is they kind of built that into the handle. You don't have to buy extra things, it's just all ready to go. The other thing that makes this really unique is that it has the RFPL mount adapter. I think that's another reason that it leans a little bit more cinema, which is a really cool feature. And then also, it's got that simultaneous crop factor. So you can actually shoot the CFexpress horizontal and then shoot the SD card vertical. And so when you're done with your shoot, you've got both horizontal and vertical ready to go, which I think is a really unique thing. It would be really cool to see if they could do that on the R5 Mark II, R5 C, some of these older cameras, even the R5 maybe, if they would do a firmware update for that, but add on some of those little features that would make it really cool. So the C50 is just a really unique camera, and I think it's really built for people like me that are just a little bit more video centric. They're leaning video, but every now and then they got to take a really good thumbnail for their video, or they need to get some stills that they're going to put in there, but they don't necessarily need a full photo dedicated camera. Now, let's talk about some of the complaints that I've heard about the C50 already. Also, by the way, before we go any further, if you may have noticed that I have not mentioned open gate at all, because I don't really care. I'm not shooting on anamorphic lenses, and if I'm shooting, a video, I'm gonna crop it the way that I want it. You know, you've heard it before. Just fix it in post. That's not the right concept. Even though you can shoot open gate, that doesn't mean that you just frame whatever you want and then you can fix it in post. So kind of have that 16:9 in your head, the way that we're delivering horizontal videos or 9:16 vertical videos. Get it right in camera, and then you don't have to adjust it in post. So the open gate thing, I don't understand why that's such a big deal if you're not using anamorphic lenses, which somebody like me, I'm not using anamorphic lens. Okay, I'm done with that. I'm done with the open gate. So let's talk about some of the complaints I've heard. One of them is it has CFexpress and SD card. Now, I am such a big fan of the CFexpress Type B cards. I love them. Do I have a problem with the SD card in there? Not necessarily. I'm just really glad that it has it. One of the reasons that I never bought a C80 was because of those SD cards. They're so much slower, they're more expensive, and they're just kind of a pain. And so now that I've got these CFexpress Type Bs, they're stupid fast, you know, they're cheaper, and I just love them. So I'm personally glad that they just have a CFexpress Type B, at least one of them in there. And hopefully their next C90 or whatever it is, they learn the lesson and do not put SD cards in that anymore. At least give us one option to have CFexpress. Other than that, I really haven't heard a lot of complaints about this camera. I haven't heard the Canon cripple factor and all of that stuff. I don't see it happening. I think the price point, everybody thought this was gonna be another $500 more, and so I know they just released the Nikon RED camera that's like $2,200 or something, which is great, but it's the same thing. That is not the C50 killer, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Keep watching, we'll get to that, I promise. So if you were considering picking up one of these C50s, just understand that it is a video-centric camera. You may be able to shoot photos with it, but in the end, it is gonna operate better as a video camera. Now, I picked up one of these little guys, the R50V, which was a really interesting camera, and I wanted to support Canon getting into more video cameras, so I bought one. I use this thing sparingly. I use it as like a third or fourth camera at a wedding, up in the corner in a safety. I put like a 16mm on it. It shoots C-Log 3. It does a decent job with what it does, but I kind of want this camera to be the C50 and everything that it's lacking with the smaller crop, with all of that, it just, getting this camera a couple months ago has given me a taste of what it would be like to use just a camera without a viewfinder for a photo camera. And I think that I would be missing having that viewfinder. Just the way that I operate taking photos, it feels a little limiting. So as long as you're okay with understanding that, I think the C50 is a great hybrid camera. I still think that the OG, like, perfect right down the middle hybrid camera is the R5 C, because it still has this viewfinder, it has the operating system for the photos, it has the operating system for the video. And so this is just a straight up, right down the middle hybrid camera, whereas the C50 kind of leans a little bit more video. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's talk about why I do not think that the new Nikon camera or the FX3 are gonna go out. Bottom line is, those are different markets. I had somebody text me yesterday and say, oh, I want to sell all of my Sony gear so that I can buy a C50. That is so unrealistic. That's so unrealistic. This C50 is not going to be an FX3 killer. Sure, it may take some of the Sony market, but at the end of the day, a professional company that has invested thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in Canon bodies, or let's say Sony bodies, and Sony lenses and Sony attachments, all of the things that work with their ecosystem, they're not gonna jump ship just because one new camera came out. And if they did, then they're just throwing away money. You can't cycle out cameras like that. I was just having a conversation with Jared on his video about the C50. He's like, should I return my C80? Rock that sucker. It's a beautiful camera. It's a beautiful camera. And there's always gonna be a new camera that comes out. That doesn't mean that your old camera just doesn't do the trick anymore. Same thing with operating systems. If this Sony will come out with another camera, and I'm sure it'll be great, it's not gonna be the Canon killer. There's just different camps, and that's okay. I don't like the way that Sony's work. I don't like their operating systems. I don't like the way that their color grades, and that's okay, because there's people that say the same thing about Canon. And at the end of the day, the only killer that the C50 is gonna be is another Canon killer. That could be the R5 C, that could be the R5 Mark II, a little bit of that market, most likely the C80, because that's a more expensive camera that has a couple things that might be a little bit better, but for the most part, the C50 is a really nice, like, little spot in the lineup. So if anything, the C50 is a Canon killer, not a Sony FX3 killer. Same thing with the Nikon. This Nikon, I tell you what, there is no way I am selling my Canon gear for a Nikon. Ever. I don't care if they were selling that camera for $1,000. It's just not worth it to me. Because one, I've used Nikons before, and I'm a Canon guy, and that's just the way that it is. And so at the end of the day, you should not be comparing the new C50 with an FX3. You should be comparing the Canon C50 with another Canon camera. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Leave it in the comments. Make sure to hit like if you're still watching this far into me rambling about these beautiful new cameras. And if you've got a camera that you're thinking about upgrading for this C50, I wanna know what camera it is. So let me know in the comments below. All right, guys. If you haven't watched any of my videos in the R5 C, I am a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. They are just a camera that I feel like is made for me. So go check those out. Until next time, take care.